every Saturday I do a live where I share in tidbits about all the tips that I can share with you. It's all about painting without any editing, all raw, unfiltered. So you can ask questions, you can discuss things out with me as we paint. Okay. So today is part 2 of this painting. The first part was all about value study, and I showed how you can take a photograph, anything, and you select the colors that you would want to include in your painting. The colors are then changed into a black and white picture, or a black and white filters applied to it, and then how you can you know break down any subject. It could be a landscape, it could be a portrait, it could be anything, and how you can break it down into values. And also it is totally up to you as to how many values do you want in your painting. Do you want it to be a 3 value painting, a 4 value painting, 5, 7, 10? The choice is entirely yours, and I show it in that video. That is part 1 of this gouache painting, how you could do that. And today we're going to be changing this into a colored study. So this was a value study, and today we're going to be having a color study over here. Okay, this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing a color study today. And you can also go and check out my video on it's called From Gray to Gorgeous. And sorry about that, where I show you, I'll just be lifting this slightly higher so it's, yeah, this is much better. So my brush doesn't get stuck over here. I use long handle brushes, so they shouldn't get stuck. Okay, so coming back to it. So today we're going to be doing a color study, and I have a special video on this where I share real good tips on how you could change any painting from gray to color using your choice of colors. Okay, so do check that video out. And today I'm using the Pebeo gouache. Again, I have a review of this in my channel. You can go and check that video out before you want to go ahead and buy it. So let's get started. We already have the values over here. We have warm values and cool values that we're going to be including in our painting. We're going to be using this color reference. Now we don't need this. This is done with. This was for part 1 and it's already done with. For part 2 we're going to be sticking with this. Okay, and let's keep it on one side. I'm using the Pebeo gouache and I've already got them out over here. It's a limited palette. I don't remove white in the palette or in the wells. I prefer removing white outside, which is a good thing because you don't want it to get dirty. So you take it outside and then you can just take how much you need, because white, sometimes you need pure white, so it's better to keep white outside and let the other colors be in the wells. Okay, so let's start with the sketch first. So we're going to be sketching this out again. You can go and check out part 1 afterwards, and when you watch both of them together, you're going to be knowing how good. So we are going to be now just it's going to be a very loose sketch. Okay, so I'm not going to go into like really. And yeah, I just wanted to show you something. I did one, that is the color thing. I tried it out. Now this was done with acrylics. This takes some time to get into this expertise of going blurring the reality of it. But today I'm going to be doing it in gouache, which is going to be more towards realism. So how you can do even realism. Now here you just have to take care while sketching all the important lines. Okay. And it doesn't matter, gouache again is quite opaque. So these lines are not going to be visible later on. Okay, I'm just going very basic with the sketch. I'm not going too much into the perfection over here. If you want to go in for perfection, you could also trace it, or you could use a grid method. I just want it to look like an apple, which is, we've taken a few bites of it. That's it. We have the stem over here. And I'm holding the pen in a very different manner. And this is so that, I get it really loose. So we've got the basic sketch. If you feel it's too much, you can always extend it. We have certain points over here. You know why it's more easier? Because I've already divided into the values that I have over here. So it's much easy to sketch now. And once we're done with the sketch, we're going to go in with the color. Okay? Yeah, I think that's quite, it doesn't look like an apple though now at the moment. And I guess that's okay. If it starts looking like an apple in the beginning, what am I going to do for the whole 30 minutes? I have to start making this sketch now look like an apple later on. That's what the intention is all about today. Okay, so that's the color study that we're going to be doing today. Pen is done. Now, it's better to start with a bigger brush or a larger brush than a smaller brush. So I'm going to be using these two brushes today. I could go even more, bigger with it. If I want, I could go with a fan brush. Or I could, if there are any suggestions, then please put them in the chat box so I know you have some suggestions. Now, which brush should I use? Should I use a large brush or should I use the fan brush? Type in the message so I know which brush I should be using. Okay, and if you don't type, then I'll be going ahead with my suggestion only. But you can type in if you want to suggest any particular brush that I should be using. Or let's see, let me do, I think I'll go with this one. Let's try out this one. Okay, so this, we'll do the fan brush some other time. Now we're going to go in with color. Again, as I said, I have the darks and the lights over here. So what am I going to do is, I'm going to be testing them out. So for the background, let's start with the darks. I'm going to be starting with the darks. But I'm going to be going in with a very watered down tone. So, and I'm not going to be too particular about the color. So I'm taking a bit of the burnt umber, a bit of the violet, maybe a touch of the green. That's a nice, gorgeous color. Now, why I'm going in more towards the green is because we have a red apple. So I want to create a good contrast over here. So I'm going to take violet and green. That's going to be a nice dark gray. Now the thing is, you can use water to just spritz it slightly so that we have a watered down consistency, and we're going to be just applying a very soft wash without overthinking over here. I am not thinking I want brush work over here. I'm not thinking anything at the moment. At this moment, it's all about just covering up. So if you have an underpainting, like I usually do with my acrylics, then it's a different thing. But now at this stage, I just want to cover up. So this is the dark that I'm going with, as you can see. And there are certain areas where this dark is there, like we have it in the shadow also. So all those areas. Now I'm not being bothered about color again over here, though I'm using color and not black and white now. But I'm just laying down that's the dark, okay? Also we have a touch of dark on the stem. And I guess that's it. Should I? Yeah, I think that's it. That's the darks that we have. Okay. Now let's go in. Just clean up this brush. Now I usually have this sponge over here, which is damp. Sponge is damp. And I just wipe this out here and then clean my brush so that it's not getting very dirty. And now I have another piece of damp towel where I just wipe it off completely. Okay. Now we're going in with the next color. I think I should go in with the background color, which is kind of like brownish violet again. But I think, yeah, I think I'll go with that. Why? The reason is because the lower part has a lot of yellows, which will go really complement beautifully. So we're going to go in with, and maybe add in a touch of red. Make it more now this is more for the shadow area, I feel, which will look nice. There's some light which is coming over here too, leaving it at that. For the background, I'm going in with a little violet, a touch of, we need a touch of the white also. Even if you're going really diluted, I just feel we should be having yeah, and I'm just going to be covering up now. Could add a little more white if we want. Add in a little bit of water, just covering up the areas. There should be no white spot, and that's the basic goal. No white spots. And let's do that a little faster so that we have time enough to play around more. So yeah, that's done. Let's go with the apple now. So this is going to be the first layer, as I've mentioned. This is just the first layer. We're going to be working on it all the more later on. So we're going to be taking red, a little bit of that dark that we had created. And this area has a lot of dark. And we have it so we're just covering up. Okay, that's the basic goal. We have it a little bit dark over here too. Now I'm just going to be cleaning up my brush, and I'm going in for more of that the reddish. Water is very essential for the first layer. not after that. We could add okay. Now going in with a little bit of the we're adding in a little bit of the green now, and that's so that we have this area. We're going to be having a little bit over here. This was too opaque, so let's add in some yellow with a touch of green and definitely some yellow here. And that's what we're going to be just adding this now for the moment. Okay, just adding it. It's not the specific color. It's going to be, we're going to be, changing the colors a bit. We're just adding them now to cover up. That's the goal. Cover up. Now we're going to be adding in a lot of muddy colors over here. And I'll tell you why in a moment. So we're going to be taking a lot of water also. And we're going to be adding just covering up. That's what we're doing. It's not going to be this dark. It's going to be lightened. But at the moment, we're just adding this. If you want, you could take some lot of white. Because white, once added, what happens is we're going to be having and yeah, we're getting a nice coverage. Okay, so yeah, we've got a good coverage. Now, washing this brush really well. I'm not going in these areas for the moment. Maybe I'll just add in, yeah, why not? You've got this. Okay. Then we have touch of this green. That's the sticker, so we're just going to be very loosely just adding in all the colors. And we're leaving it at that now. This area and the highlights areas I'm going to be coming in later on. I'm now just going to be adding in more depth into these areas so that they look better. Another thing I could do is I could clean up my palette if I want at this moment, because it's like really filled with color. And I don't want the new colors to be muddy and watery, so I'm going to be just cleaning it up with the kitchen towel. Okay, and leave it at that. Now going in with again the darker colors, but now they are going to be deliberately more opaque. They're going to have variation, so I'm going to be dipping my brush into green. I'm going to be dipping my brush into violet, and then just a little bit of the burnt umber. violet burnt umber, and I have a nice green color. If I find it really, what do you say, thick, so I can just use a bit of this and spritz just very lightly. And this is going to be now can you see now it's like really opaque. Now once I'm done with this, I don't use that. I dip it and then I just spread it, take a touch of water, and then now you can't see it, but there are a lot of shades in it. It's got the violet, it's got the green, it's got a bit of that burnt umber also. Okay, and I'm liking how dark now that looks. Maybe some more green. Yeah, so we've got that really beautifully covered. Now for the shadow, I'm going in with more of the violet now, because now we're getting color over here. Okay, so we're going in with more of the violet, and what are we going to do again? Just very lightly, and now there is a difference in the color. Okay, we've done with that. Okay, now for the background, and I think this shadow has a touch of red in it, which I'm going to be adding over here. It's also slightly over here. Now because of the light you can't see the difference. Maybe I'll just, yeah, now you can see there is a slight difference. Now I'm going to be cleaning this because it's kind of dark and I want it to be a little lighter and subtle, and I don't want that green in it. I'm going to be removing all that green. Okay, and I'm going in now with the background color. Now that's going to be slightly muted. I'm going to take a lot of white and maybe just wipe this off. Yeah, so a little bit of the violet. White, and we're going in actually on purpose a little lighter. Yeah. One second, I just have to remove this. Now, if by chance you make it muddy, I use a skewer to remove that color if it goes by mistake into the other color. So we have a lot of this violet ready over here. You could blend it if you want. I'm going slightly dark over here and slightly reddish. One second, over here. Maybe more white. Yeah, I like that. Maybe a little bit more of the white. Yeah, and over here. Because this is going to be in the shadow, so this light is going to look nice. Okay, we could also blend it over here with our finger. So we have a hard edge over here and we have a softer edge as it goes, moves away. So that looks nice. So yeah, we're done with this part. We could go lighter if you want. Just dip it in white and add in some touches for fun. If you don't like it, you could also blend it with your finger. That's it. See how easy it is to blend. Need this to be clean now. And now I'm shifting to another brush. I'm shifting to a smaller brush for the apple. Also because I need a cleaner brush. Now this is the focus, or this is the star of my show, so definitely this has to look good. And now I'm going to be doing something is, I'm going to be going into areas which I need to be the brightest, okay? So first, now instead of going from darks to lights, now for the focus, the subject, that I'm going to be going from light to dark because I want really pure colors over there. So let's start with all these highlights. So for the highlights, I'm using white, a touch of the yellow, touch of the, I would call the yellow ochre. And now the paint is like really thick. And I'm going to be just adding in areas where I want it to be really juicy. Okay, so that's there. Then there are certain areas which are having light over here. This is going to be kind of blended out. Then we have another area over here. Now that's the part which has the maximum light coming in. And now it's going to get a little darker, so we're going to be taking a little bit of more of that yellow ochre, mixing it in. Maybe for these areas. Because again, there is still light falling over here, but it isn't so bright as that. Oops, sorry about that. Now we're going in with another area which has a little bit of this. Okay, so we've got this. Now we're going to go a little darker, but not very dark. Now these are areas like and we have so what basically I'm doing is I'm taking yellow ochre and I'm taking a little bit of the violet, a touch of the green, and I'm mixing in colors. Okay, now here we have, it's coming more towards the greens, as you can see now. Take a little bit of water if you know, but if the more water you take, it starts blending with the color which is below. We don't want that to happen. Okay, again now it needs more variation. So again we're going to pick up a little of the violet, a little bit of the yellow ochre, mix it. Sorry, I can't show you the mixing, the whole process. And we have certain darker areas here. We have certain darker areas over here. We have certain darker areas over here. Okay, we're getting it there. It's still a work in progress now. And now what we're going to be doing is going in for the reds. Just cleaning up my brush really well and going in for the reds. This area is dark. Take a touch of water, not too much. Okay, and now we need really bright reds. I should have gone with the light first. Now this is what I made a mistake. I should have gone with the light first. So I'm taking the red, I'm taking in yellow, and instead of red I'm going in with a little orange, and you will see why. And I'm just taking some water over here because I don't want to dip it in the dirty. Just taking this. Yeah, and this is the color that I want. Yes, it's like a really vibrant. You can see it, you've got that really nice vibrant color. Now what I just feel over here is, let's have a little bit of this covering up. Yeah, that looks better. Now we're going in with this area, so going in with yellow, a little bit of the ochre, and definitely white, maybe a touch of that green. It has a touch of the red too. So what we're going to be doing is, and you can see how beautifully that comes up without too much of an effort. If you need more white over there, you can just take in. Yeah, I'm going to go with the stem a little later, so that's okay. It is more orangish, more greenish, I would say, over here. I always, there are colors that I want to blend in. I just use my fingers so it becomes much easier. So yeah, that's looking quite decent now. Brush needs to go. Smaller brush comes in now. So we start with the big brush and we shift over to thinner. Now I'm going in with the liner and I'm going to be like, okay, wash my liner, go in with pure white. And that's it. Going in with pure white. Yeah. Now going in with pure white and just writing in. Okay. So it just gives the appearance that there's something written. It can be any gibberish, but just writing it down. Now going in for the stem, taking some green with a little bit of the burnt umber, a little bit of the yellow ochre, and I'm making a stem. Right? And now just adding in more of the ochre into it with a touch of white. And we have that's nice. Now I also want a bit of that shadow, which can be darkened. Okay, so that's kind of nice. Also, we could add in a bit of this space which is like looking really weird. Now this needs more yellow, I just feel. Going with and I guess a little bit of the white won't harm. What we're going to be doing is maybe yeah. If you feel it's too much, you could always come in. You feel that's going like beyond expectations, the border is like entering. Just come in. Yeah, that's it. See, you can correct gouache really easily. Now I'm going in with a hog brush. Now this is a brush that you use for oil paints, okay? Now for this, I'm going in with white now. And there are certain places where I really want the highlight. To show. We could also add in a bit over here. Now under this, that is this place, we could lighten it. go in with little violets also. I just want to add in some dark, which maybe a little bit of the reds. Yeah. Because we're going in with the highlights behind, the shadow areas behind, which has more of the darker colors. Yeah. Maybe some violets also over here. Yeah. Again, going in with my thin brush and extending this a bit because it's kind of looking too shaped, you know. Yeah. Oops. And the brush marks are just not very, what to say, they're supposed to be more organic. So I'm just going to be taking the brush and extending it in this manner. We could have a little darker color over here maybe. Yeah. So it's more natural looking now, definitely. And we could have a little bit of that light. Yeah. Yeah, much better. So yeah, that's it for today, I think. Leave it at that. I think I'm going to be leaving it at that before I play around with it too much. Just feel if, you know, maybe add in a highlight. Though it's not there in the picture at least. Yeah. If something feels too dark, you can always lighten it. Okay. So I think I'm not going to play around with it much, and I'm going to leave it at that. So that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this demo, and keep joining in my Saturday paint parties where I do a lot of lives and I share a lot of tips related to acrylics, gouache, watercolors, sketching. And that is good fun where we can have good interaction and you can ask your questions over there. And until next time, take care, keep creating, and I'll see you soon for more art magic on Conversations with Canvas. Bye bye. Love ya. Take care.